All right. Back for season number 1. Well, technically season number 4 here with the Benchwarmers perspective. I'm your host, Connor Rath. Today we're joined by SportsNet, Montague fan, Super Montague fan, Ludington fan, Jay Courtland, who's been helping us out now for what, 2 years?
Yes, this will be the second year.
Yeah, and doing some great work for us, and really taking pride in what Sportsnet does and helping us be able to accomplish our mission. So tell me a little bit about kind of how where you kind of came from, who you are, so that people can kind of get to know you.
Well, as you said, I'm Jay Courtland.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up here in the small town of Montague, Michigan. Went to Montague High School. Was a Montague varsity athlete on the Montague wrestling team back in the late 80s,
Yep.
like 86 through 88. We actually had a really good team back then. Our coach was Gary Johnsack, who's from Shelby. He was a state champion at Shelby, and he wrestled for the University of Michigan wrestling team, but he was the Montague wrestling coach at the time. So we learned a lot from him, and he kind of turned the Montague wrestling program around and made us. Back then, we were a state power. We didn't have the rankings we have now. All the internet stuff.
Yeah.
But like the Muskegon Chronicle, and they still had like, I think, the Associated Press Bowl.
Oh.
Back in, I think it was 87, we were ranked 5th in the state in Class C. So we were pretty good.
Yeah.
We beat a lot of teams. Hesperia was really good back then. They're still like a powerhouse. But
Yeah.
in our own conference, Shelby and Hart, Mason County Central, Whitehall, they were all really good teams. So we had good competition.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how I know you're a huge football fan.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Like what kind of drew you to football?
Well, what really drew me to that was growing up in Montague. Some of my best friends were really good football players.
Yeah.
Like guys a lot of people know they're legendary. Dave Osborne, Scott Tabor, Brad Van Bergen, guys like that. And they were my friends, and I was always a big fan of them. I didn't play football at that time, way back when I was littler, but not in high school. I had played basketball up until I was a freshman, but I wasn't super tall, and we had a really good team. And I thought,
oh yeah, that team was pretty stacked. Yeah.
They were like, I think they finished the season 22-1 in 1988.
Yeah.
And Osborne was a big star, Randy Lindquist and all those guys. And I'm like, I'm just going to focus on wrestling from this point on. So that's what I did. But what drew me to football was we were always big Montague fans, me and all my friends. We went to all the games, all the basketball games, even sports that we didn't play. We'd even go to the girls' basketball games and volleyball games. But I think it was just the fight that the Montague team showed. Like back in 87, for example, Whitehall had the more talented team. But that year for the Battle of the Bell, Montague won. And they didn't win many games that season. I don't remember exactly what their record was, but I think they only won like 3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
But Whitehall was one of the games they won. They made sure they were going to win that game. And that also really drew me to football. The coach back then, Ken Diamond.
He was just in here earlier today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
People always call him King Diamond, but
yeah.
Ken Diamond.
Yep.
But he was kind of new at Montague back then. I think he'd only been there a few years from. I think he was at Catholic Central prior to that, and he kind of lifted up the Montague program. It really made him work out hard. He wanted him to be a powerhouse like the Ravenna and Oak Ridge and some of the top teams in our league back then.
Yep.
And that really drew me to football too. Then along comes the Montague 92 team with Pat Collins and all those guys that made it, to the, I was going to say the Breslin, but back then it was the Silverdome for the championship, and almost won, only lost 12-6. And that, drew a lot more fans, I think, to the Montague football program at that point.
Yeah. So what do you, looking back at those Montague teams, what do you, what are some of the most memorable moments from those teams?
A memorable one would be this was against Hesperia. I remember we all went to that game. This would have been in the 92 season. Hesperia had their best season ever. I think They were either undefeated or they only had one loss. And even today, if you talk to people from Asbury, you're like, man, you Montague guys ruined our great season. But they had a great season. And I think that was Montague's first opponent in the districts that year. And Montague beat them. And beat them pretty bad, and they had a great season up until then. That was a memorable game. The game after that was against Charlevoix that year, who had a really good team too.
Yeah.
And that was the game where it snowed. I think it was about a foot of snow during that game. And at halftime, they actually had to shovel off the whole football field so they could continue the game. That was a very memorable as well. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
It's like a blizzard.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I remember, I think it was 2018 or 2019 when when Montague ended up going pretty deep. I think it was Schoolcraft where they shoveled off the field. And it was the Mud Bowl is what they call it, because it was super muddy in the middle of the field, and cold. And then the other game that I remember was Sanford Meridian, where it was, I think was that the year that they went all the way and then lost, or the year that they won?
It was one of those years, right?
They were back to back. They went the year before, and then they were separated by a year, I think, because they went in 18. Lost, and then in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, they went and won.
Exactly. That was the COVID year, 2020.
Yeah.
But you're right. 2018 was they played Lumen Christie.
Yep. Yeah,
really
which,
good Lumen.
that team was, you looked at their sideline, and their defense had more players than our entire team did.
Oh, yeah. They had kids, like D1 kids. They had, I think, a kid that was going to Air Force, their running back, Thompson. And then a tight end that I think was committed to Notre Dame. So they were just really good and really talented.
So speaking of that, Lumen Christie, if I'm not mistaken, is a private school. What are your opinions on private schools competing in the public school divisions, and especially at the school sizes that they're playing at?
I think in some ways, I think they do have an advantage over the public schools, because I've heard about, I'm not going to really say any names, but I've heard about certain players coming from out of state to play for private schools, and then they become a great player, and they go on to play Division I football, and they weren't really part of that school's program until they suddenly arrived.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say something I don't know for sure, but it almost seems like in that case, a player could get maybe you could call it a scholarship to play at that school.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
on just athletic ability.
Yeah, I think this is something like, this argument dates back a long time, of the private schools playing with the public schools, and I'm not opposed to the private schools playing with the public schools necessarily. In the regular season. Now, playoffs is where I start to have some questions. Not that private schools are bad in any way, not that they don't have athletes, not that they're should be shunned out of the league, but I think they do have an inherent advantage. The fact that they're private, you get to pick and choose what kids come to your school, and when you have a predominant sport within that school that has the ability to somewhat recruit and say, hey, you'll get free tuition, and this and that, and not maybe that probably isn't exactly how it happens, but when you have things like that, and then you go up against a school like Montague that it gets a very small pool of kids to pick from, and they work with what they got, right? I think they have a little bit of an unfair advantage there, which makes it so that where you see it is specifically what some people call the country club sports, right? The sports like golf and tennis and cross country. You see every year those teams dominating those country club sports, and that's a lot of time, I think, is because they recruit for those country club sports, or there's this bigger draw to those country club sports because there's more money to invest in them, specifically within the school itself. An example, this is I ran cross country in high school. We went to the state finals my sophomore year. My freshman year, we were one place outside of going to the state finals, and that was because it was two private schools in first and second, and then I think it was Dalton, if I'm not mistaken, in third. And Dalton had a really good team, and it was Calvary Christian and Covenant Christian, I think, if I'm not mistaken, were the two schools. And then when we went to the state finals, we ended up being where Dalton was at. We didn't beat Covenant Christian and Calvary Christian, and you kind of just didn't. There was no way you were going to with how good of athletes they had. And you consistently see year after year after year after year that those two teams, and specifically that region, dominate. Wow. It's not just necessarily like, hey, we got good coaches. We dominate every year because we got great coaches or because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Like a team like Hart, for example. They've notoriously had great cross-country teams for years.
Right.
But they're not dominating at that regional level, like, and winning everything until the state finals usually. Okay. Which I might be wrong there, but that's 90% of the time. That's how, like, they're not every single year are they doing. Mm-hmm. They did win 5 state championships in a row, but it wasn't every single year in a row after that they won. Calvary Christians in the running every single year. And with golf, the same thing. Detroit Wellspring Prep just dominates in golf, especially on both the boys and girls side. Mm-hmm. But my opinion is that you come up with some sort of league for like a private school league, where it's the same thing. MHSA still handles it, but it's a private school league with all the same rules, all the same board, everything. It's just a private school division, more or less.
Well, they do that to a certain degree in Detroit. Like, they have that Detroit Catholic League that, like, Detroit Catholic Central's in, I think, Orchard Lake St. Mary's. There's other schools in it. But there's nothing like that in this area.
Yeah.
At all.
So, kind of shifting away from that topic, looking at the WMC specifically, how do you think the change has been for the WMC since, I think it was 22 when they initially changed?
Yes.
How do you think that has impacted the sports, and how do you think, in both a bad or a good way, and how do you think the changes that are coming up with Manistee moving down and Hart moving up, how do you think that's going to impact it?
Well, I will say this. Speaking of Montague in the WMC Lakes, Montague got wins a little bit easier the way it was before, because back in that era, for quite a while, Shelby and Hart were kind of down. So you could kind of count on Montague beating those teams. That added a couple more wins. But that being said, the way it's set up now, they actually play more bigger schools. So it helps a school like Montague when it comes playoff time.
Yeah. I also think it hurts them too, because you are, those are harder teams to beat. Yes.
True.
But purely from a football perspective, I think, and we wrote my dad wrote an article about this a couple of weeks ago. I think that the entire WMC has been somewhat hurt by the change. I think, like, teams like Whitehall and North Muskegon haven't played in football
that's true.
in how long, right?
Right, and that would be a great matchup.
And last year, that would have been a phenomenal matchup. North Muskegon handedly won the WMC Lakes, or the Rivers, and the Whitehall was, Ludington put up a little bit of a fight, but it was, when you got Cam and company, like, it's pretty hard to beat them. And so, like, having those two top dogs go at it, you just don't see that anymore. You don't see those teams, or, like, yes, most of the time, Ravenna Oak Ridge will typically play each other, but there's a season where they might not, right?
Right.
I think rather than splitting up and I know why they split up the divisions, but rather than splitting up the divisions, just doing it all one big division of, like, 10, 12 schools, 14 schools, whatever we end up having. Or alternatively, I think they should have added more schools into the divisions. So, like a Fruitport might not have great football teams, and they're a higher division, so their okay football teams are comparable to our
like Division 4.
Good football. Yeah. And same with, but their basketball teams.
Right.
Basketball teams are phenomenal. They've been great the last couple of years. They play Montague just about every year, and it's usually a battle, right?
Oh yeah.
Or Spring Lake too is another team. Adding Spring Lake to that group would be, I think, would add so much depth. Again, not an amazing, well-known football school, but a great basketball school. I mean, Bill Cord does great work over there.
Yes.
I think adding some of those schools and really molding that league and really what happened was I think is we added all of these schools and the schools we added were not bad necessarily,
Right.
but weren't like known for football or weren't
True.
known for, they were maybe known for basketball or they were known for something else rather than, and what happened is slowly the competition in the league kind of did this. It's kind of gone down. And so you're looking outside of the league to get your competition, your really good teams, and you end up struggling. It's why you don't see why you see a lot, I think, over the last couple of years of more teams missing the playoffs in our conference overall.
True.
So yeah, what's your kind of opinion on that?
Well, I think overall, the way it used to be, I really liked it because I'm kind of old school.
Yeah, I did too. I really enjoyed it.
I liked all those like Hart, Shelby, Mason County Central, everybody being, in that old conference, and it was one of the oldest. I do believe one of the oldest conferences in the state.
Yeah.
All those original schools in it. We have added teams though, like by adding Ludington and Manistee.
I think Ludington was a great ad.
Yeah, exactly, because they kind of fit in. They're right there along the lake shore.
Yeah.
And for Ludington, specifically, some of those weird old conferences they were in was hard for them for travel time and stuff. They had to go like way down and play teams like Greenville, Muskegon Heights.
Yeah.
That's a long drive coming from Ludington or Manistee.
Yeah. I think Ludington was definitely a good ad. Ludington, we needed more schools like Ludington.
Right.
I think Manistee is they've got good teams and a lot of stuff, but they're real small. I mean, they're like I said, they're going down a division because they're small enough to meet the eligibility requirements. We needed more schools like Ludington who are on that top end. I mean, if you look at it by enrollment numbers, how many schools did we add that were on that top end in both leagues?
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, in the Rivers, it was adding Hesperia, Holton. Yep, both of them are small. Who else do we add? Why can't I think of who else?
Ludington, Manistee.
Then in the Lakes, you added Ludington, which I would say was a top end ad. That was a high enrollment numbers. Yep. But on the bottom end, we added Manistee.
Right.
Which is I mean, they're like I said, they're falling out, right? They're dropping to that bottom league. So how do you I think in order to keep the competitive level up to kind of snuff, we needed to add more top end teams, more Ludington, Fruitport, Spring Lake, teams like that to really help all the other teams in the group grow, in the conference grow and continue to flourish. I think the teams you've seen that have had a lot of success, where you see that not happening is playoff success, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like the only team from the WMC that's had consistent playoff success, I mean, Whitehall did okay, but they've not really made it past the regional final, from what I understand. North Muskegon, they've gone pretty deep the last couple of years. Yep. But outside of that, we haven't really had anybody that's gone more than a regional final or to a regional final other than those two teams. No. Whereas 5-6 years ago, how many teams did we have go that deep, right? Gosh. I mean, I know Montague did. Yes. Whitehall did. Yep. Like you have Oak Ridge did a couple times. Ravenna did a couple times. Like we've seen more postseason playoff success.
Correct.
In the older conference than we ever have in this conference, and we have more teams.
True. That's true.
You see what and that's where I kind of am like, and I think the new conference was good. The transition was good, but I also think it has harbored kind of a slow roll of just lower competitiveness. I think because we're playing we haven't added a lot of those top end challenging teams, the playoff point teams, I guess you could say.
That's true.
What are your opinions on that?
Well, I think going forward, I mean, it sounds like they're gonna evaluate it every few years.
Yeah, I think it was every 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
I think a school like Montague-sized school, Division VI schools, as far as playoff points go, it helps because even like last year and the year before, we finished with a losing record, but we still made the playoffs because of all those playoff points.
Yeah.
But to your point, it hasn't helped anybody so far in the playoffs. to
Yeah.
make any type of deep playoff run, other than North Muskegon.
And Whitehall did okay. I mean, they've gotten to the regional
Yeah,
final,
that's
but
true.
not much past that.
That's true.
Like, yeah,
Their 2022 team. They lost to South Christian that year. Had they beat them, they most likely would have won the state championship.
yeah,
South Christian easily won the state title.
Yep.
that year.
yeah. No,
It's just a tough draw for them.
yeah.
But,
I think it's the same thing with North Muskegon.
Right.
They got knocked out in the semis last year
Oh,
to
yeah.
Millington. They beat Millington. They win the state
Oh,
title. I mean, it was
Yeah.
pretty, it was pretty certain that they were going to do that. I think that I don't know how you fix it necessarily without a full rebuild again.
yeah.
What's the solution there? Because in my opinion, what you need to do is the reason that they wanted the whole reason they shifted was originally because some of the smaller schools were struggling
That's true.
in a lot of sports, specifically Ravenna, Hart, those small schools.
Right.
But I don't think it's made anything any better, if that makes sense. Like I don't think we've solved the problem that we were trying to solve. So what I think would be the best is you take a look at the league, you maybe combine them, and then you throw some more top end schools, and you end up with, or you just keep the two divisions and you throw some more top end schools in both leagues. So in the Rivers, it would be you're adding, or in the Lakes, you'd add Fruitport, Spring Lake. In the Rivers, maybe you add WMC, for example.
Yeah.
Even though they are a private school
Right.
that doesn't have football, you still get all the other sports, which they are phenomenal at. They're a real challenge to somebody
Okay.
like North Muskegon.
There's
who-
soccer power.
Yeah,
too.
they're great. They have great soccer teams. They've won 3 state chips in a row. Or even their basketball teams are pretty solid.
yes.
I mean, a lot of teams in this area schedule them for basketball. Or you even add. I'm trying to think of other schools.
Catholic?
Catholic's a little small, but
Yeah, they're D8
the-
now.
but-
Football.
yeah, but they're still not a bad ad. And maybe you look at that and add some just more
Right.
challenging teams. Maybe you even look more like maybe Allendale. I mean, we're gonna
Right.
go 45 minutes north, half an hour or 50 minutes north from
True.
Montague. Why can't we go 45 to 50 minutes south, right?
Right.
Maybe in Allendale or something like that. That they obviously are unhappy with their conference, seeing as
Right.
they just left theirs, or maybe even a Coopersville. A Coopersville is a good
Yeah.
happy median there. Like those are big top end schools that will give you some of that boost, I think, in performance that you'll
Right.
see throughout the conference overall. And I think a lot of this is a football perspective, but I think it goes for all the sports.
Oh,
I think all the sports overall have struggled. Basketball, you haven't seen a team in the Lakes get outside of their district in
Not since Ludington.
yeah,
And
Ludington.
they weren't even in the conference when they did that.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
was-
they did. I think they got to the district.
Well,
they
yeah,
get-
what am I saying?
la-
Just last year they did.
last year they
covered it,
did.
yeah.
Last year they got out, but I mean, outside of that, they haven't really made much waves past that.
Right.
North Muskegon has a couple of times gotten out of theirs, but they also play D4, which is different.
Right.
Hart's done okay in the district, but outside of that, you've had, again, 2, 3, 4 teams in the last 3, 4
Right,
years that
right.
have made some no teams that have made a deep run.
Right.
North Muskegon was the deepest of those, and they lost in the quarterfinals or regional finals, I think, to Poama, Westphalia,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, and that's the deepest they went. Right? No
Right.
state semis or
No.
finals style games.
The last state semi teams were Ludington back in 2018, and then before that, you had to go all the way back to the Montague team in 2009
Yeah,
when
with
Coach Osborne was still there.
with Cater and those guys who went
I
deep.
went to that game. That was a cool game to go to.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, how would you fix it? What would be your solution?
That's a good question. I kind of like how they have the divisions, but yet, to your point, it almost sometimes doesn't seem quite competitive enough, and you're missing some key matchups.
Yeah,
Like they've kept, of course, the Montague Whitehall matchup, and
Yeah.
Montague still plays North Muskegon, but yet the Oak Ridge Ravenna matchup is no longer really a conference game because one's in the Lakes and one's in the.
so it's not necessary in some situations.
I mean,
And for playoff points, that only benefits Ravenna to win because they're
True.
going to get strength of schedule points on top of that, right?
True.
That's I'll let you keep going, but what what match like Whitehall North Muskegon is an example. I mean, people have been begging for that game for how long? Like 2-3 years now.
Well, a lot of people think that like last year, I don't know. We'll never really know because they didn't play. A lot of people thought North Muskegon could actually beat Whitehall. You know that their
Yeah,
team was that good. And back when they had James Young, and I mean they were really good.
yeah,
They were really good last
and they
year.
never had to play. And
No.
again, that's another situation where it would be why would Whitehall play them? It doesn't make any sense because if they lose, they're out. I mean, like they lose potentially. They don't gain as many playoff points as if they go play a Hudsonville Unity Christian, right?
Exactly.
Whereas North Muskegon, they beat Whitehall, they're going to get a ton of playoff points. And now you could argue that they're going to make playoffs anyways, but they're going to get a ton of playoff points.
Oh yeah.
Whereas somebody like Whitehall isn't, or same with Oak Ridge and Ravenna, or some of those teams. But Montague, North Muskegon, that makes sense because they might not be enrollment size comparable necessarily, but they're close enough that in that it doesn't matter, that it's a moot point on the playoff points. One wins, they're going to get more. One loses, they're going to get less. Right? That's kind of my opinion. Kind of transitioning now. I'll move away from this topic a little bit. What matchups are you excited to see most this season in football specifically?
In our conference, of course, next week the Battle of the Bell.
Yep.
That's huge.
Who do you think's going to win that?
I actually think Montague will win this year. I
Really?
think that they're due, and I think that they're in talking to some of the players. I think they want it.
Yeah.
And they want to take that bell back. That they feel the bell belongs back in Montague. That it's time.
Yeah.
Because Whitehall has won what kept.
I think they've had it since 21.
Yeah.
Is when I was doing the article yesterday. I think it was 21.
Ooh, that brings up a good point. Some people, like in recent years, I've heard people like say, well, that game's not that important. You know, like it's not that big of a deal. But it truly is. I mean, the Battle of the Bell is a huge game. And an example is this. Back in that year of 2021, when Whitehall took the bell from Montague, I was at that game. We were watching from a friend's house, and her house is right at the south end of the Whitehall football field.
Yep.
So we watched from her backyard, and we have a fire and stuff. And that game got over, say, roughly around 9 o'clock. Whitehall won, took the bell from Montague, and this is a true story. The Whitehall kids rang that bell until I left her house at 11:30 at night. That's 2.5 hours after the game. So to say that game doesn't mean anything, it sure meant a lot to the Whitehall team. Like every player on their team rang the bell. Every cheerleader on their team rang the bell. I think every staff member, anybody associated with Whitehall football had to have rang that bell.
Yeah.
To ring it for 2.5 hours. And me and my friends were talking, and we're like, "Can you believe this? We're looking at our watches. It's 11:30 at night, and that bell's still going ding, ding, ding."
Yeah.
I mean, it meant something.
So I was actually I debated putting that in my article. Was talking about how I've heard that some people don't view it as much of a rivalry game anymore. That it's just it's another game that's got a little bit more importance on it, and that bothers me. I'm gonna be honest. As a Montague guy, a White Lake guy, that bothers me. Like I remember how big those games were.
Oh yeah.
So I'd like to see, and whoever's watching, I'm gonna throw out a little challenge. I'd like to see as many people as we could get there. As many people as we could get. I want the stands overflowing.
Oh yeah.
And I will tag if you come up to me during the game, assuming I'll be there. I will tag you in a SportsNet post, and you can hold me to that. If you come up to me and you want to be on a SportsNet post, we'll make it happen. But I want as many people there. I want it to be a big game where people just want to be there, and it's just two good football teams going at each other the whole time, right?
I bet it will be. It should be just standing room only because that game typically does draw a big crowd. But I hope it's like huge.
Yeah, like we need to move it to a different field. Huge, like you know what I mean. Right. How do you think that game playing at Whitehall versus Montague? How do you think that, like that home field advantage? How do you think that plays into it?
I think people might disagree with this because they're so close, but I think the home field advantage is huge in that series.
Yeah.
Like for Montague to play at home this year is a huge factor. Like there used to be this, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was called Cal Preps, and they would predict games based on all these computer algorithms and
Yep.
stuff like that. And they always gave 3-point advantage to the team that had the home
Yeah.
advantage. I think it's more than 3 points.
Yeah.
I would think.
For specifically that game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For that
Yeah.
game.
Who you said you had Montague this year? What's your score? If I was putting a parlay on this, what would you be? Where would you be at?
I would say Montague 24, Whitehall 17.
Really?
Right now.
That's a touchdown separating them.
Yep.
What's a team this year that kind of surprised you? I know for me so far it's been Shelby. I couldn't. They balled
Yes.
last week. I was really surprised. But for you, what's a team?
It would be the team I watched last week, Oak Ridge, playing Montague.
Yeah.
Now, Oak Ridge is traditionally a strong team. Everybody knows that. They got great coaches, usually great athletes. I didn't think Oak Ridge was as good as they were, but seeing them in person, they're very big, they're physical, they're fast, they're always well coached. But because the Montague team with our new coach, they got a lot of good athletes. They got really good size. They have a big offensive line. They're fast. They got good athletes at pretty much all the skill positions. And Oak Ridge was able to slow them right down.
Yeah.
And some of that has got to be due to the fact that Montague's installed their new offense.
Yeah.
I think they're still working.
Still learning the
things
veer.
out.
I think is what's called veer.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they don't. It looked to me like there's a few things they're still missing there, but you can see the potential. They're going to be good. Give it. I would say by week 5 or 6, Montague's going to be a really tough team.
Yeah.
People could overlook them and say, "Well, shoot, they lost their first 2 games." And blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. But I think you'll see them put it together more against Whitehall next week. And Whitehall's a great team. I'm not cutting them down in any way. They have good athletes of their own, but I would say that Montague's up to the task. They're
Yeah.
a bit as good physically.
Yeah.
It's more of a mental thing there that they have to overcome that. We haven't beat Whitehall in a few years. Now we have to beat them.
Yeah. So another team that kind of surprised me was Orchard View.
Oh, yeah.
They're 0-2, but they competed with Oak Ridge for a good
yeah.
portion of that game. I think they're extremely well coached. I think Aaron James, I think that's his
Yeah.
first last name, knows exactly what he wants to see. And I think they've progressively gotten better. I mean, a couple of years ago they were winless. I think they were 0-9 or something like that, 0-8. Then last year they were 2-7. And I think this year they're going to end up being around that 4 or 5 win mark. But they're just a team that's progressively got better, and they've also got that stud of a quarterback, the Babbitt kid. He's a baller, and does good work for them over there. But I'm excited to see. I think this Montague Orchard View game is going to be a great game on Friday.
It won't be like what people think, where Montague's just going to blow them out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like that North Muskegon game where people thought that they were going to blow out Shelby, and then Shelby they only lost by 3. And now, granted, what I will say about that is that the 3 points that they lost by, Shelby scored with like a second left. So really, if you look at it, it was like 33, 26 or something like that, 27. Or sorry, 33, 24, 23, something like that. But still, they hung in with that. I remember I watched it. Something I've noticed about Shelby offenses, I don't know if this is a trend, they always go for 2.
Really?
I've never not seen him kick very many field goals. I don't know if it's just they don't have a field goal kicker, or if they're just that's just kind of their model they live by. You go for 2 or you go for none to style. But yeah, I was really impressed when they came back down after North Muskegon scored and put one in and then took the lead with a 2-point conversion. I was like, oh man, this could be a little bit of a different game than it usually is. They got that Garcia kid's a baller. They got a couple other kids on there. They can rotate 2. They can play 2 quarterbacks and have kind of a 2-quarterback offense that's got a good run game. And then that, like I said, that Garcia kid, he can just drop out of the pocket and just run and make passes and make plays. It's really impressive actually to watch.
And they play Hart this week.
Yep, they play rivalry game over there. I'm curious. I picked Hart as number 2 in that conference this year,
Okay.
and they got to beat Shelby to do it. And I think it's going to be a really, really close game. Actually, last year was a blowout. I mean, Hart just ran away with it. They just, I think it was like,
Well, hasn't Hart dominated recently in that series? I think.
yeah. But I think that they can't sleep on Shelby. But the other thing too is Hart's really young. Still, I mean, they had a young basketball team last year. They got a young football team this year. Like they're a young squad overall, and the veterancy of Shelby might play into that a little bit. Those guys know what they were doing. They knew where they wanted to be. They played hard. Phil does a great job over there getting those guys to just be motivated, and so does the rest of their coaching staff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, any other teams that kind of surprised you so far this year?
Oak Ridge, and you mentioned Shelby. I would have said Ludington, but that's really not a shock because Ludington's been loading up for them.
Yeah.
You know, they got the all-state quarterback and
Yep.
Gunsel.
They got a couple.
Ferris commit.
Yep.
They got some really good receivers, Williams,
Yeah.
Himes, those guys are good. They got some really good linemen in Salazar or Walt Autry.
Yep.
They're a good team.
Yeah.
They're better than people on the statewide media give them credit for.
Yeah. Do you think they're good enough to make a playoff run?
I think so.
Yeah. What would be your kind of guesstimate on where they would end up in the playoffs?
I think it depending on how their bracket is set up, they could win a regional.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
that team that we played, okay, for example, the first game that Montague played, Forest Hills Eastern, say that if they were to match up with them,
I think
Ludington could beat them.
Yeah, I 100%, especially with how close Montague was. I mean, it was
Right.
what, a 1-touchdown game, 2-touchdown game?
It was 12 points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so two score game.
And that's a little misleading because that last score for Forest Hills Eastern came within the last minute.
Yeah,
So it could have been closer than that.
yeah.
I mean,
So do you think that Ludington, had they won that game last year at the Big Rapids, would have made it deeper, or do you think they would have fallen in the regional?
I think because that regional was just so loaded with good teams, I don't know think they could have made it.
Yeah,
Through that.
yeah. So any upcoming, we got, we're going into winter after this. Any upcoming things you're excited for? Looking into maybe the winter and the spring for this upcoming year.
Winter, I would say wrestling. Montague wrestling seems to be on the rise.
Yeah,
That's
I would
a
agree.
popular sport. And with the new school or the new gym and all that, I haven't even actually checked their wrestling area out, so I want to see that.
Yeah. I haven't.
Maybe you have, but
I have not seen it yet. I've been inside it, but I
Okay.
haven't seen it with all the mats out yet.
Okay.
So, yeah. No, I think. Well, I mean, what do you think about that new gym? How do you think that?
that's an awesome facility. I mean, it's like state of the art, and it's I would say in our conference, it's probably the best.
Yeah. The only thing I worry about is like, you got more seats than you got a town in there. Like, it's huge, just filling it for basketball games. So yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on. This was a great conversation. I really appreciate all you do for SportsNet and for just helping us cover and helping these athletes get coverage. I'm excited to be able to get back into the season and really get going on these football games. We got a couple good ones coming up this weekend or this Friday.
Oh yes. I'll be at Ludington.
Yep. Yeah. If you see him there, say hi. Go up
Oh,
and
yeah.
say hi to him.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I'm excited. My plan for the Whitehall game is we're gonna get some hype into this game.
Yeah.
We're gonna feel the fire a little bit
Yeah.
next week and really get it moving. And I'm hoping that we get 2 or 3 people there just recording at all angles to try and get clips for that game.
I
So
want to be there regardless.
yeah.
but-
So, but I appreciate you coming on. This was episode 1 of the new season. I'm not going to say season 1 because technically it's season 4 of the Benchwarmers perspective. and I'm really excited to get back in. Next week we're gonna have Eric Greiner,
Awesome.
just a U fan on here, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about Montague football, the football area. He's got all the stats, so bringing out some stats with him and talking about basketball and
He's big.
and everything you can think of. And hopefully next week we got a little bit of a different look in this podcast room and maybe a little bit more relaxed. Just stay tuned for that. So, yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And be ready for some more content coming this fall. So, thanks for coming on, Jay.
You're welcome.